One of them is dealing with failure. So I'm really grateful to Patrick for writing the Daily Nash article, and that I talked about some of the stuff that I'm passionate about outside of academics, such as athletics and music, and those are sort of like socially acceptable activities. But actually, my first extracurricular activity I ever did was highly socially unacceptable. It was playing chess. So I'm really embarrassed about it. This is why I don't mention it in things like the Daily Nash article, now that I've given way to more socially acceptable activities. But this was something that I used to take very seriously. So I used to play for the England junior team, and I started when I was 5 years old. And then I would lose some games, and when I lost an important game, I'd burst into tears, I'd cry. And then, but then the more and more I played, right, and the more and more games I lost, I realised this wasn't so much bad about losing. Losing is just part of life. It just happens. Even the best baseball teams will lose 40% of their games. And then there's a great book called The Road Less Travelled by M. Scott Peck says, when you know that life is difficult, then life is no longer difficult. Some days your shares go up, some days your shares go down. We need to think about how are we going to deal with situations that are difficult. So there may be situations where you are in a bad meeting, right? The people in the meeting are just so intransigent, you had lots of preparation, and the decision that's made just absolutely makes no sense. And I've been there, and I often respond to these in really negative ways. But there's two bits of advice that I've heard from people far more learned than me. Well, number one is just a bad meeting is negligible compared to your whole career. Your career is a long 40-year arc. There'll be times that you're cruising, there'll be peaks, but there'll be troughs and there'll be valleys, and we need to know how to deal with those valleys. And to be honest, I'm in a bit of a valley at the moment. So early on in my career, there'd be times where all the papers I'd send would get accepted quite quickly. And now that the rate, certainly the last couple of years of publication, has slowed down. And this is something that I need to deal with. And it can hurt and it can feel sort of sad to get a paper rejected, but I need to recognise, well, this is just a couple of years in maybe 40 years of publishing. There's certain times that people will be reaping, certain times that people will be sowing. I can look at my colleagues who are publishing more than me, and again, it's really easy to compare yourself with somebody else, but maybe there's the time that they're reaping and I'm sowing now, and I'm going to be reaping in a few years' time. So when I look back at the chess games which caused me to burst into tears, that has no effect on my life right now. Well, in the heat of the moment, that bad meeting can seem so frustrating, but when we apply some perspective, right, this means not really much in terms of the whole career. The second thing is these bad meetings or intransigent people, right, they give you the chance to build character. So when I go to my athletics club on the weekend and the coach beasts me, well, I like it, right, because even though the workout is tough, I know it's going to make me stronger. And sometimes I go there and then I get an easy workout and I feel really shortchanged, I've just wasted my time. I wish I could apply that philosophy to bad meetings. Because a bad meeting where you don't get what you want and where you're dealing with difficult people, this is a tremendous opportunity to develop patience and how to deal with other people. These are extremely useful skills. In fact, far more important in the long run than whether you got what you wanted in the meeting is how much development you had in terms of your character and your leadership ability. And I am still trying to work on, I'm far from there, is to approach these meetings where if things don't go well, just know that this is an opportunity to develop patience, develop character, develop ways of trying to handle a difficult situation. It is good that we have these difficult situations, but I often don't respond correctly in those situations. Now there's this phrase, treat others the way that you treat yourself, which many of you have heard of, and when you often hear this phrase, it's on this focus, on treating others. Because the implication is that the way you treat yourself is you're nice to yourself, so be nice to others. But in fact, the way I often treat myself in response to failure is I'm not nice to myself. And it might be that some of you in this room are like this because you're successful LBS types who always want to succeed and achieve. So it might be that I play in a gig and the gig goes great and I will just focus on the few notes that I played wrong. Or I'll go into a meeting and most of it goes great, but I think, oh, I wish I'd said this comment. You often have these things, oh, I gave this talk, had I answered this question in this way? And okay, it's good to try hard and try to succeed, but there is a limit and I was way past the optimal point. And what this led to was then me just being overly critical of other people. Like co-authors I'd work with, I might be just a bit less tolerant if they weren't putting the weight that I think that they should be pushing in. And if some of the work I thought was sloppy, I was being intolerant of them. And so once you stop criticizing yourself, once you realize that failure is just part of life, it's something we have to deal with, then you will stop criticizing others. So the first time in any leadership talk, I'd love to read this extract from a poem called Oh, the Places You'll Go, which is an extract from Dr. Seuss. So let me give you the context. This is often read as a graduation anthem about when you leave LBS, right, how all the amazing opportunities that will be out there for you. It's called Oh, the Places You'll Go. Only a short excerpt I'm going to read. Congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll soon have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they are darked. You get so confused that you'll start into race down long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place. The waiting place. For people just waiting. Waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow. Or the waiting around for a yes or no, or waiting for the hair to grow. So often in life, we will have failures and we will need to be in the waiting room. And I'm spending time in the waiting room at the moment in terms of some of my papers. But how you behave in the waiting room is important because this is something we'll need to deal with. Second brand new slide is on dealing with success. So this is something I was really nervous about talking about because I thought this is a really difficult topic to talk about without seeming preachy or saccharine. But I thought the best thing is just to deal with this head on because it's something that everybody will have to deal with because everybody here will be successful. And I know that often the responses will be like false modesty. Oh, I'm not really that good, but you know deep down that you are, right? So how are we going to deal with this? Because this is something which is important. This is many people become victims of their own success. So this is something I think we'll try and tackle head on. And again, I don't know much about this, so I've tried to learn from other people. Only 2 points here. The first thing is something known as the self-attribution bias. So this is a bias where you'll blame failure on other people and you'll attribute successes to yourself. So some of you love sports, right? Great football manager wins a game. I chose great tactics. I gave an inspirational team talk. I come up with this good formation. You lose? I blame the referee, or the opposition cheated, or the weather conditions were not good. You attribute failures to other people. But to deal with success is to reverse the self-attribution bias and realize success is not down to you. It's probably down to other people. You may start up a great business and it's not just you, it's the venture capitalists who financed you and all the people that you worked with and maybe somebody from LBS who put you in touch with this other person. And why is this useful? This goes back to the idea of gratitude, right? Because when things go wrong, right, you're still grateful for the fact that all of these things led to your own success. It's not just down to you. And it's also important because when you fail, which is inevitable, right, you'll realize that it's not down to you having lost it and you now being a failure because you were never the core reason for the success to begin with. It's down to these other circumstances. So to be grateful for these other things, a grateful mind can never be too pumped up. Second thing is a little story I heard from a Grammy winner called Matt Redman. So he said there's a story of a donkey. And one day the donkey was really excited. The donkey says, Mummy, I had a great day today. Right? When they unloosened me, they embroidered me in the most amazing clothes. They put on this great bridle and I was decorated in gold. And then I was going down the streets, and when I went down these streets, people were cheering for me. They were cheering for me like I was an amazing donkey. And the mother donkey says, you silly donkey, right? When all the crowd was cheering for you, they weren't cheering for you, they were cheering for the rider, which was on the donkey. And so this is very important to me because we just realize there's what is actually behind your success. It's not just necessarily you, it's you're carrying sort of other people or other things that you just happen to be in the right place. And this is really important because there might be times where I'm really lucky and I get to give a TEDx talk, I get to speak at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and then there's a huge risk that this will come to my head. And then I'll realize, well, what is this paper that I'm presenting? This is a paper that many co-authors worked on with me. I was lucky to have a fair reviewer or a positive editor who accepted the paper. And maybe I just got this idea because something I just happened to do in grad school. So when I am lucky enough to be in that situation and to have people come and say, oh, that was a good talk, I have to realize that I'm just the donkey. I am just the flipping donkey